right, we are back with another episode of On the D-Lo. That's me, the D-Lo, or that's me here. Episode 146. I've been doing this 146 times. Now, not that big of a deal compared to my boy Jeremy Scott, who's 600 episodes in. Have you heard Jeremy Scott's podcast?
I have not.
Yeah, you got to listen to it. He's my business partner with my mastermind, but he's a fitness guru, health. You would be into it.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds great.
Really cool. So that's a plug for you, Jeremy, because you're my boy. Okay, cool. I got to stop saying I went through this therapy of like, why do people put ums and blank spaces, right? Mm-hmm. And when I think about it, I do a very good job. But cool. All right, so welcome. I'm a spaz. You're going to learn that. You flew in just for this podcast. Congratulations. Way to go. We have Tess, T-E-S-S. Is that so? What is Tess short for something or?
No, that's all they gave me.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Is there even a long version of Tess or no?
Some people
Testicle.
in fourth grade, that was the long version for sure. Testicle, testosterone.
I literally just met her 10 minutes ago.
No, some people say Teresa or Tessa, but I get that question all the time. But no, it's just Tess.
I love it. Well, Tess is beautiful the way it is.
Thank you.
So, welcome to AZ. I overheard you talking to Dee. This is what, your second, third time here?
Yeah, many. I've been here many times for different various things. I used to live in Utah, so I used to come down this way.
Where are you originally from, born and all that?
So originally from Massachusetts and grew up there, and then since then I've lived in Miami, Singapore, Utah, LA for a little while, all over the place.
And you worked on a cruise ship, right?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I didn't even include that, but yeah, I worked on a cruise ship for a little over 3 years, almost 4 years, I think. And that was quite an experience. And that was cool because I got to travel a lot, mostly Caribbean, Alaska, but I got to meet people from all over the world. So that was a really cool experience. And I only got that job because I graduated into a recession and couldn't find a job and wanted to stop working at a dive bar. So
tell me about the ship. Like, what's that experience like, from the being on there for extended periods of time to your clothes, your food, all that sort of stuff? How does that work?
It's an insane experience. So the specific job that I was doing was as a high diver and aerial acrobat. And so my life on the ship was very different than everybody else's. I did not work a lot. I spent a lot of time in the crew bar. Drinks were very cheap. Yeah. I did not live the healthiest lifestyle. We were all athletic. There was so many different casts. I was part of the acro diving cast. There was an ice skating rink, so there was a ice cast. There were dancers. It's a huge ship. This is a 6,000 passenger ship with 2,000 crew.
Oh my God.
Bigger than my hometown.
I've never been on a ship in my life.
I had never been until I worked on this particular cruise ship, and at the time it was the biggest ship in the world, and it was such an amazing experience. I met so many cool people and so many great athletes that had sort of gotten this second chance to do their sport. A lot of us were trying to make an Olympic team, maybe didn't.
Right.
And the whole ice cast were all world champion level skaters. Some of the divers that I dove with I was NCAA level, but there was a couple Olympians that were on there as well. So it was super cool because a lot of times you do this sport forever, and then, at some point you either get injured or you can't keep going anymore, or you just have to become an adult and pay the bills, and divers don't really make a ton of money. so it was a cool opportunity to use my skills to make money at a time when finding a job was really challenging.
So I would assume as a child you had found that talent?
Yeah, I started doing gymnastics when I was 5, and then I was injured in every way possible. I was pretty competitive, and then when I was about 11 or 12, I switched to diving, and I did that all through high school, full scholarship to school, which I'm super grateful for. And I knew that was a wonderful thing because I didn't want to pay for college, and I had a big fear of money growing up. We didn't have a ton of money. It was always like, we don't have enough money to pay for this, or we're going to keep things small. We all drove Saturns. It was very.
I had a Saturn.
I love Saturns. I mean,
they're extinct.
They are extinct now, and I'm devastated because they were great cars. Yeah, okay. So anyway, all of that led me to be really aware of money. So I'm very grateful because it did get me a full scholarship to school, and now as an adult in my 30s. Having so many people in my life and peers that have tens of thousands of debt still that's compounding on itself, I'm just very grateful when I look back on that.
When did the money story that has now created your business, which we'll get into, when did that When did that come to light to you, to fruition? When were you able to escape the magnetism of the demon of money, thinking like you'll never have enough?
Very recently.
Okay.
I mean, my journey to financial independence and building wealth and my focus on that started in my early 20s on cruise ships, actually, and that experience became a catalyst for me saving and investing. I worked on the ship, so I saved a lot of money. You didn't have to pay for food. Your room was covered.
Right.
And I met my first serious boyfriend, and he's a great guy, and he knew a little bit about investing. And I was talking about all the money I was saving and I wanted to do something good with it. And he said, Tess, you can take that money and buy things that make you more money, which is investing 101, but no one really tells you that in that direct of a way really ever. And so that moment for me was really powerful. So that's the beginning of my money story in terms of understanding the power of using your money to buy assets instead of liabilities or things that just drain your cash. And then from there, it was a whole slew of mistakes in real estate and stock market investing. And then
this is great. Let's hear about all that. So something clicks. You're on the ship. You're making money. You don't really have to do anything with the money because you got a place to live. You've got your food. You've got your alcohol. You go and you hang from rafters once a week or something like that. I mean, seriously, it sounds like a good life at the time, right?
Yes.
And now you have somebody giving you advice that your money can make money. So what are some of these things that struck a light bulb in you that were just instant mistakes because you still didn't know? You had to make these mistakes to know what you know now.
Sure. So I made two mistakes in the very beginning. The first one was I took some of the money that I had saved on the cruise ship and bought my first real estate and property, which was a single family in Tampa.
Okay.
I had an inspection. It wasn't very good. I didn't really read it. I didn't really understand the cost to repair things. I didn't understand the uniqueness of Florida and what that can do to properties. I will say I got lucky in the sense that area ended up being good. It was not a good area at the time. I was 24 when I bought this property. I had no idea what was going on.
My son's age, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on. This was before there was a lot of real estate investing education. This was before Bigger Pockets, all these really big educational platform. Yeah. This is well before that. We were literally Googling best places to buy rental properties and flew down to Tampa to buy this property. That's how we did it. We didn't have a great strategy. So thankfully that was in 2013. So I lucked out a lot from just good timing, shortly after the crash of 2009. So I share that story a lot very candidly to say, yes, that worked out for me. I eventually had a lot of appreciation, was able to refinance, pull out cash, and invest in something else. But I lucked out because of the timing.
Yeah.
If I did that now, I would have lost a lot of money. So that's my real estate mistake.
Okay.
And I learned a lot from that. And I don't know, I would say it was a really good learning experience. And I'm just glad that I made that mistake at that time. And then the stock market I read some books on stock market investing, how to pick stocks. I tried to do it. I was super overwhelmed. So I hired a financial advisor, somebody that was a fiduciary, which means they're obligated to act in your best interest, somebody that I knew, that I trusted, that I grew up with. She was a couple years older than me, lived in a town nearby. And so I gave her all my money and pretty much said, make it be more. Mm-hmm. And I didn't do much research after that because I thought that stock market investing was for special rich people, not average acrobats like me. That's not something that I'm capable of learning. Yeah. And so that ended up being a huge mistake for lots of reasons. The first one being that I was paying over 1% fee for her to manage my money. The money was invested extremely conservative for my age. I was in my 20s. The funds that were chosen to put in my account were funds that this person got commission on, so they weren't necessarily the best funds for me.
Right.
And then on top of that, there was also a fee for the administration of the platform. So all in, my fees to this person for being to not get a great return. And when I say not great, around the time that this was happening, I was getting about a 6 to 7% return on my money, and the average return over that time period was about 15%. If you just invested in,
so half of what it,
half, and I'm in my 20s, so I should be in a very high risk situation where I'm making a lot of money. So I started to figure out all this out, and then the worst thing that happened was,
wait, what were her combined fees?
Over 2%.
Over 2%. Okay.
Yeah, and then the worst thing was I was sold an annuity that I cannot get out of. I can't sell. I can't transfer. I put about $20,000 in it, and there's nothing I can do. And people will hear, some CPA will hear, or CFP will hear this and say, like, I can get you out of it. And I appreciate that. But I've had so many people look at this, like, you can't. Terrible investment for someone my age, much better suited for somebody in their late 50s with very little retirement money.
Yeah.
So when I figured out what $20,000 compounded from I was in my late 20s to my 60s would have been, rather than this annuity, which was going to pay me out maybe like $90 when I get into my 60s, I was pissed, mad, tons of shame. Like, I felt super stupid. And so I thought, okay, there's got to be a way to learn this. And then I learned the basics of how you can invest in index funds that hold a bunch of different stocks at once, where you can literally just buy the whole stock market, pretty much get the average return of the stock market, which is historically, 10%, and call it a day. So now I'm not only saving a ton in fees, I'm also getting better returns. And I thought to myself, it took me a couple weeks to figure this out. I was very motivated, so I was reading every book under the sun, but it didn't take me that long. And then I went deeper and learned a lot of other strategies. That was just the tip of the iceberg. But the reason, and to come back full circle to your question, so that is why I eventually started this business, because after that happened, I felt a deep moral obligation to teach as many women as possible the basics of this stuff, because we think it's so challenging, it's so confusing. Often women are talked down to by financial advisors. There's so much financial jargon. We think it's going to take a ton of time, and none of those things are true. Yeah. So my goal is to myth bust as much as possible, help women understand the basics so that they can either invest on their own or, at the very least, vet a great financial professional because they know the basics.
So, yeah, wow. Okay. So that was basically just a learning experience that cost a little bit of money that got you to where you're at now.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I am way richer than I would be if that hadn't happened.
Thank God you went through that. And you didn't ignore it, and you just sat there and you're making, 2% on your money at this point.
Oh, for sure. It was life-changing. It was super frustrating, and now when I realize the position that I am in and how my entire life is different and the flexibility and the optionality that I have was so worth that pain. And now what I'm seeing is more, I work with mostly women in my program, so I do a lot of beginner investing education online, and a lot of the women that I work with are in their 40s and 50s, and they've never thought about it, never looked at their money. They have retirement accounts. Sometimes they're not even invested. They're just sitting in cash, not growing. Yeah. It happens all the time. And so the more I do this business, the more I'm grateful for this really bummer of an experience, because it truly was, it changed my entire life.
What would you say are some of the dumbest things that people spend money on? And no judgment. I mean, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Just like that's not going to make you any money. That eventually, like for me, I bought a Porsche. Okay?
I was just about to say luxury cars.
Dumbest fucking thing I ever did. Right? I was like, 1 year into it, I'm like, okay, this is cool. It's like, I don't know.
Luxury. Dude. So
it's like a stripper. It's like, okay.
There's so many dumb things we spend money on, but I would say the worst things are things that are really expensive that are hard to get out of. Yeah. I mean, I've definitely met a lot of people that buy luxury cars that are then upside down in them and can't get out of them if you don't have the means. Yeah. So I think luxury cars are probably the worst ones. There's this wonderful financial creator called Katie Gatti Tossin, and she talks about what she calls the hot girl hamster wheel. Like once you start getting like Botox or fillers or all this stuff, which by the way usually screws you over later. So like look into that.
Health-wise, yeah, exactly.
And like fucks up your face. Yeah. Like I've been on this like filler deep dive, because I'm learning that so many women younger than me, so I'm in my mid-30s, women in their 20s, 30s are starting to get regular Botox and filler treatments, and these things are celebrated as a form of empowerment, which, like, total side quest here, but it's not empowerment if you're doing it because of a beauty standard that you didn't set, right? So there's
Welcome to Scottsdale. Yeah. Botox capital of the world.
So I'm concerned because once you start doing that stuff, it's really hard to stop, and that's really expensive. So that's dumb stuff. I think for entrepreneurs, I see a lot of entrepreneurs get sucked into the abundance mindset of you have to be in the right rooms, which is important. Good masterminds are really valuable.
Yes.
And you should definitely invest in your business and yourself. And I would never tell someone not to do that. But you really got to take a look. If you're on your third mastermind, 20K mastermind of the year, and you're not getting a significant ROI on that, then you have a spending problem. It's
Dude,
not about being in the right rooms.
Yeah, or if you're just not showing up. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
or that,
Like, you
yeah.
can go spend money, but if you're not participating or showing up or asking the questions or taking advantage of the stuff. Now, you want to laugh. There was a meme that was going around that got texted to me, and it was about a mastermind. It was about a guy that charges $20,000, okay? And the guy on the other phone was like, 20 grand, like what, I mean, what's this for? He's like, well, you get to speak to the guy. And he's like, well, oh, the mastermind, right? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, what else do I get for 20 grand? You know what he said? You get to bro tap him. Seriously, tell your boyfriend that. Like, just be like, hey, I'm gonna bro tap you, man, but it's gonna cost you 20 grand. I just, some of these people that sell some of this shit that is just absolutely crazy. And I'm sure that you see it all, and that's what we'll say primarily women, because that's what your business is around. But I would say that you're in the job of protecting women.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And I would also say that, honestly, the biggest answer to your question when we talk about the dumb shit that people spend money on, like cars, Botox, houses that are too expensive, whatever it is, just living outside your means in general. But honestly, it's when you haven't figured out what your priorities are and you don't spend money in alignment with your values and your priorities.
Yeah.
That's stupid spending, right? Like for me, I love traveling and I love outdoor sports. So buying a $200 pair of waterproof hiking boots so I can try to survive New England winter and hike in the snow, totally worth it, right? For someone that doesn't give a shit about hiking, that's going to go one time as like a fair weather hiker, that's a stupid purchase. So I think that that's, any purchase can be valuable as long as it's aligned with what you care about most, and you can't care about all the things, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's the high level answer and what I do with a lot of my students, because you need money in order to invest, right? So we talk a lot about to create more money to invest so you can grow your money faster. I don't want you to not spend money on anything. You only live once. You got to enjoy your life, but you got to prioritize what matters to you.
Yeah, no, completely makes sense. As far as like, what's your recommendation for people that, let's say I'm Susie, I'm 23 years old, I get so much in a paycheck, like what would you tell her to put aside to invest?
There's no perfect percentage. I wish there was.
Yeah.
It's just not that simple. It would depend. If Susie had no high interest debt, then you can definitely start looking at investing. And that's the first thing too, is a lot of people are really eager to start investing because they've heard of it and they know that it can help grow your money.
Right.
But if you have high interest debt over 8%, credit card debt, student loans, if you start investing, it's like running up an escalator that's going really fast, right? Like you can keep investing, but the interest on your debts is still compounding.
Yeah.
So I would say for Susie's situation, the first thing you need to do is make sure you pay off high interest debt and have an emergency fund in case something happens. Those are like the non-negotiable first things you would need to do.
No, I think that's great.
Yeah, and then from there, depending on how much you invest, if you start early, if you're in your early 20s, you've got 40 years of compounding, you wouldn't have to invest that much of your salary to comfortably retire at 60. If you want to retire faster, then you need to invest more.
Yeah, and if you're that young, which I wish I would have known. I mean, I didn't really start seriously investing until until I was like 39. And I'm 50 now, and it's like, wow, even in that 11 years, you're amazed at what can happen.
Totally.
So, like my son, he's 20, soon to be 21, and he wanted to open up his own Vanguard account, so he did. And
nice.
he's putting $100 here or there into the retirement fund of 20, whatever, 70, whatever.
The target date funds.
The target date. Yeah. So, I think that's great. I mean, that kind of gives somebody. It's almost like a game that you play to keep putting money in, and
and the target date fund. But if you don't know what that is and you're listening to this, a target date fund is a great way to start invest. If you don't know what's happening, a target date fund is basically just a fund that creates a variety pack of investments for you and decreases in risk as you approach retirement age.
Give an example of what some of those investments might be, like Apple or...
Yeah, so inside a target date fund, usually you have three big categories of investments. You have U.S. stocks, international stocks, and bonds. bonds. So stocks are ownership of companies. So some of the U.S. stocks could be like Apple, Meta, Home Depot, Johnson & Johnson, companies you've heard of, NVIDIA. And then in the international stocks, there's going to be maybe some that you've heard of, but that's great because you're getting what's called diversification, which is just a long fancy word for putting your eggs in different baskets.
Yep.
And then you'll also have a portion of those investments that are bonds. And bonds are basically like an IOU. It's when you loan a portion of your money to government, corporation, or municipality. And so what's great about Target Date Fund is you're getting these three categories. Most of your money is going to be in stocks when you start. And then over time, it's going to increase the amount of bonds so that your whole Target Date Fund is less risky. So basically, it's like you're buying one fund and paying a minor fee for somebody to put together a whole. I would say a good comparison is like if you go to IKEA and you're like, I'm going to buy like a bed set room, like a bed and a side table and a lamp.
The whole thing.
The whole shebang.
Yeah.
That's what a Target Date Fund is.
I'll take that.
Yeah, that's the investing equivalent of a Target Date Fund.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to worry about it. And so when people are like, oh, I need a financial advisor to invest or I need to pay a lot of money, fancy strategies, these Target Date Funds I think are a great way for a majority of people to invest. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can. And there are ways to invest in different pieces of those. But honestly, it's a really good way to get started.
I think it's awesome. One that's done very well for me, and you probably are familiar with this, is QQQ. Mm-hmm. I mean, I bought it like $2.30.
Yeah.
It's like broach, I think 600. It's insane.
Yeah.
All the tech is. So it's fun. I mean, my advice to myself is like, don't think that you can win.
Yes.
You just set it and forget it.
Yes, well, and that's what I tell people when they're like, I'm nervous to invest on my own because, what if I make a mistake and I need a financial advisor to help me like play the market. And when you look at the data, professional money managers aren't outperforming the average return of the stock market. So if you're paying for somebody to manage your investments, they better be providing a lot of other things that have nothing to do with the performance of your money. And that's a really important distinction. So if you are somebody that's listening that works with a financial advisor, doesn't mean they're necessarily doing bad for you, but you need to understand that you should be paying for service, not performance. And the data is so clear on that. It's every year money managers are being outperformed by the average return of the stock market. And there's even this famous study that Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of our time, where he bet that a monkey could outperform all these professional money managers. So this monkey's like throwing darts at a board of stocks, and he beat all of them because by randomly choosing stocks.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
So, correct me if I'm wrong. So you're not a financial advisor. You're somebody that basically helps people with their financial story, in other words. So kind of talk about your business and how that came about and what you do exactly.
Sure. Yeah, so I would consider myself a financial educator and speaker and investor. I like to invest in all kinds of different things and learn as much about them. But my goal is to empower people, especially women, to learn the basics so that you can invest on your own and build wealth for whatever you want your life to look like. So you can live life on your terms, whether that's travel or retiring early or just retiring at all, pivoting, whatever it is. So my goal is to teach you through digestible and jargon-free education. Most women that I talk to, it's one of three issues. They feel like they're just bad at money or bad at math, which is not a good excuse. There's calculators for everything.
They're intimidated.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And with good reason. There's so much financial jargon. A lot of it is very confusing and not ever well explained. There's also a lot of data around how women in particular are spoken to about investing, where a lot of the articles for investing are aimed at men, whereas women, the messaging is more like, save your money, coupon clip, like stop buying bags and lattes, that's why you're poor. And that's definitely not it. So there's reframing there. And then a lot of it has to do with women feeling like, oh, this is gonna take, I know I can do it, I'm confident, but this is gonna take me so much time. And the reality is, once you learn the basics of investing, it doesn't take that much time at all. It's like, you don't need to be a mechanic to drive a car.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what learning the basics of investing. You need to learn the basics. You need to learn the rules of the road, how to read the signs, and to set it up. And then you're good to go, and you can pretty much set it on autopilot.
That's amazing. You've created a really cool little niche out of yourself, and
Thanks.
I know it's I mean, just from what you see online, and we'll put all of your information and all that stuff in show notes. But I strongly suggest that, even if it's for entertainment value, people follow you because you got a great personality and a great thing going. So with that being said, let's just kind of get to know you a little bit personally. Like, what's your daily routine, and what do you like to do, and what gives you that passion, that drive to wake up and want to help other people?
Sure. So daily routine looks like I always get up and I read any financial news as possible.
Okay.
That way I can translate it into regular person speak. Or I've started doing a series online more called Finance Like I'm Five.
Yeah.
And so really breaking down any really complex financial jargon into terms that people can understand. I also like to get ahead of stuff too. You know, the news loves to share negativity. And so I remember one time I went on Fox 5 News and I was on there as an investing expert to talk about a global market meltdown. That was on Monday. The stock market dropped by 4%. Everyone panicked. People were selling all their shit. By the end of the week, it was back up higher than it was. So it was hardly a global meltdown. So I do like to help calm everyone down. So I do a lot of reading and content creation, and I love creating content. That's really fun. And then I spend time with students. So I have a online group program where I teach the basics of investing through video. So there's an online portion, like an online video course, and then we meet and chat about it because I never want people to just take a course and not understand stuff. And so I want people to be able to ask me questions. So usually I have some kind of group call at some point. And then I am a big believer in moving. I've always been an athlete. So now I'm actually trying to recover from another surgery. So it's a lot of physical therapy. But I usually get out and move. I do everything from weightlifting to rock climbing to sometimes just walking. Sometimes walking is all I fit in.
Wonderful.
Yes, and that's fine. It's taken me a long time to realize it, but I love walking. It's a great way. So I do a lot of that. And then for me, spending time with friends is everything. So I like cooking, and by that I mean my boyfriend, who's a better cook. He does some cooking, and then on the weekends I'll try to hike. So for me, like, having financial flexibility is about being able to use my money and time to make an impact.
Yeah.
And so I love my business. I'm so excited about it. I
awesome.
Love help.
Passion,
Yeah, it's just cool. It's cool because I get to work with women that sometimes I do one-on-one coaching. And when I work with women that get their handle on their money enough so they can leave a toxic job. Like, what a life-changing experience.
Yeah. Makes you feel good.
Yeah, or I'll find out too. Sometimes I've worked with women and they'll tell me later, like, hey, thank you so much. I learned how to take control of my 401k. I started saving money, and I left an abusive relationship because of that.
Right.
And I had no idea when I was talking to them. And it's not like, to be clear, like, I'm not working with women. They're not becoming millionaires overnight. That's not how this works. But what I can do is point out what you're doing great. Everyone is doing something great, because if you're taking action to learn about your money, you're already doing something right. Like, the only prerequisite for getting your money under control is deciding that you want to do it.
People need permission, and you help give them permission.
Yes.
That's really,
Yeah, it's cool. So I work with a lot of women, 30s, 40s, early 50s, and through the coaching and speaking. And then I also do a lot of, like, corporate speaking as well, which is fun because more companies, and I love to see this, are hiring me to help explain the basics of their 401k or how to save money or how to create a spending plan, because the reality is a lot of employers are losing productivity because their employees are so freaking stressed because of their money situation.
Right.
So there's a lot of awesome CEOs that are really taking financial literacy seriously, and they're like, if I'm going to offer a 401k, I want to make sure that my employees understand this, which is really cool. So I've worked with some hospitals recently and some larger companies, and that's been really fun.
Well, I got good news. I have a company full of 13 women, and I will definitely hire you to do that, so we can figure that out. Okay, so first of all, come do a shot with me.
Okay.
So
what is this?
It's called Magic Mind. It's a let's just say an energy drink, but all natural. And when I say all natural, it's got, like, mushrooms and ashwagandha and.
I was about to say it has to have mushrooms in it. It sounds like a mushroom
but
thing.
it's so good. So
where do you get it?
Cheers.
Well,
You get it on my link on the YouTube channel.
I feel smarter.
Right?
Yeah.
Pretty tasty, huh?
Yeah. How often do you drink these?
Like one or two. So I have a tech company. I have a website company, and my tech guys, this is what they do to keep their shit together, because I don't want them on Red Bull or any of that unnatural
No,
stuff.
so much better.
This is such a great, little shot for them to get that, spice of energy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
kind of a
cool.
breakup, so.
It's like a better version of microdosing.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'll send you the link. But, all right, so what I wanted to do that before I asked you some rapid fire questions, so you'd be on top of your game. So you ready?
I'm never been more ready.
Okay, this is great. Wine or coffee?
Coffee.
Okay. What any sort of type of coffee that you like more than others?
Just black coffee.
Okay.
I mean, I like wine.
Yeah.
But I only drink it if it's really good wine.
Yeah.
I'm pretty serious about like good wine at this point in my life. I don't drink a lot, and so
Yeah.
if I'm going to, it better be amazing.
You're gonna spend money on it. Better be damn good.
Yeah, it better be very good, and I better drink it before 6 p.m. so I can actually sleep. so
Yes, you and
I would say black coffee for sure.
You and my wife. Have you any coffee places in Arizona that you like that you've been to? You've been to Press or?
I haven't.
Yeah, try Press.
There was one, I went to Schmooze.
Schmooze,
That was pretty good.
Yeah, in Scottsdale. Yeah,
Yeah.
a little vibey.
Yeah,
Love
nice
some
vibe. Nice
Botox.
outdoor place.
Yeah. Woods or the beach?
Woods.
Okay,
Yeah, I like hiking and climbing. I feel like there's more activities you can do.
1000%.
Yeah.
Van Halen or Elton John?
Oh, that's tough.
Not here to make it easy, Tess.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with Elton John because when I lived in Utah, I had a friend that worked at one of the major arenas and Elton John was playing and I wanted to go and they didn't have any tickets. And then he told me that you can go and buy tickets behind the stage for like $10 and they like give them to friends and family. So this like sold out super expensive concert. I had like the best sort of aerial bird's eye view of Elton John, which was
And
awesome.
his toupee.
His amazing jacket. And it was so cool. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Elton John because that was a great experience.
All right, name one song Elton John sang.
Yellow Brick Road.
Okay, good.
Mona Lisa's Mad Hatters is my favorite song.
Climbing or weightlifting?
Climbing, although right now I can't climb. So right now I am only weightlifting, but I hope to get back to climbing once I'm more healed.
I just did a speaking engagement on Wednesday, and the lady that put on the event owns a place called Black Rock Climbing Gym, which is about a mile from my house. Really, really cool. So next time you're in town.
Yeah, for sure.
Cheetos or Doritos?
Neither. Do I have to?
No, you don't have to. You either like red dye 5 or blue dye 6. Your choice.
Yeah, like
Okay,
gun
what-
to my head, Doritos.
Okay, non-gun to your head. What is a alternative to that kind of gives you a treat?
If I'm not being healthy, then salt and vinegar chips.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boulder Canyon. I think it's like just chips and salt.
Yeah. There's a brand, Boulder Canyon. That's like a pretty clean
Yeah, it's very
chip.
clean.
Yeah, I like
3
those.
ingredients.
Deep River is another good one. I
Deep
think.
River. That must be out in your part of the town. I've never been there. Okay, good. Pac-Man or asteroids?
Pac-Man.
Yeah. Waka waka waka. That's good. Hold on, I think. There you go. Vanguard or Fidelity?
Fidelity.
Really?
Yes, Fidelity. They're both great, and I don't get paid by Fidelity. By the way, I'm not sponsored by any major brokerage, but I do like Fidelity because a lot of my students who have moved their accounts from other places to Fidelity have had a really good experience with customer service.
Okay.
I think both of the platforms leave a lot to be desired for the average newer investor to understand.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fan of either from an interface perspective, but Fidelity gets a slight edge because they both are pretty much the same. Like they both have the same types of opportunities, investments, accounts. But I have found that Fidelity has gone above and beyond to help people. I mean, they want your money in their brokerage, so they'll help you do that.
So I'm on Vanguard. You know what I noticed? Like that shit's made for old people because you log in, the numbers are like this fucking big. It's like you have this. You think you're richer than you are. The number's so damn big.
Well, I think it's a reaction because there was a lot of discourse on the fact that Vanguard's interface wasn't as good as Fidelity's.
Yeah, totally.
So they definitely made a lot of changes, and some of them were a little bit questionable. So they're both great. You can't go wrong. Don't switch if you're on one or the other.
Don't log in at the coffee shop because everybody will know how much investment you have.
Yeah, you should also never log in a coffee shop from security
That's true,
reasons.
too,
So,
yeah.
so just don't do that in your own home.
Well, actually, I got two other questions, but before that, what do you think about crypto?
I think crypto is really interesting and something that if you are in a strong financial place that you can explore and should explore, but with a relatively small amount of your money, knowing that it's extremely volatile and there's very little historical data, and also that it could completely crash. So I think depending on who you talk to, some people will tell you like crypto's here to stay. It's a great investment. I'm not anti-crypto at all. I just think you should be careful and understand that it's really, really volatile. So I invest in crypto, just a smaller portion of my money. That might increase over time, especially with some of the political support that's coming now. But at the end of the day, it does have to become more mainstream and also more useful for people in their day-to-day, and we're not quite there yet. So if somebody was asking me what I would suggest, if you want to look into it, do your homework, 5 to 10% of your portfolio.
Yeah.
But you should be in a good position before you start doing that.
Be able to kind of get rid of that money.
Yeah.
Just know that it could go away. I kind of relate it to like having... what do you call it? Having foreign sex without a condom, Like,
I think that's a worse gamble.
Well, that's what
I would invest in crypto before doing that. At least, like, you're not going to have permanent damage potentially.
That's true. Yeah, you're not going to get AIDS from crypto.
Yeah, you can do more risk mitigation. STD could be with you for life.
Oh, okay, it's gonorrhea.
Well, okay, I guess you could say,
investing.
yeah. I guess you could say a recoverable STD, maybe.
Yeah, crypto is like gonorrhea of investing. Can we say that?
Well, but then you wouldn't want to invest any of your money in it. What's the potential upside?
Because you can get a shot for gonorrhea.
And okay, if the sex was really good,
Right.
and it was worth it, then maybe.
Yeah. Okay. This really went down a plunge. All right. Cold plunge or sauna?
Sauna.
Okay. Very cool. Where do you live now?
I live in New Hampshire, southern New Hampshire. I did cold plunge a few times this year, and I thought it was great. I don't like being cold.
And you live in New Hampshire.
I know, it's very confusing. I'm Puerto Rican.
Oh.
I love warm weather. I do love New England. I have good friends there, so for me, it's home. I grew up there, but I definitely love being warm. So sauna for me, but I am trying to. I think the cold plunge is good for me because it's a real mental challenge, and I like that. And I do think that I can get a little bit manic when I'm like excited about ideas and just overwhelmed with the amount of things that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I do think that the meditative quality, because I have to like really focus to like.
Yeah, you're type A. You're all over the place. You're like, before we sat down here, you're just like, I gotta check all my emails. I totally get it because I can relate, right?
Yeah. So I think from that perspective, I really like the way I feel after it. So we have one at home. It's a like inflatable one that's pretty cool. It wasn't that
Just go in
expensive.
the lake in your backyard. I mean, during the wintertime.
It could be ice.
Yeah.
Like straight. I'm not trying to ice fish my way in.
Okay, fair enough. All right, last question. Aliens or Sasquatch?
Like, I need more context.
No, you
like, are we
don't.
hanging out?
Yeah. Like,
Is it a
which
movie?
No, or the aliens or Sasquatch? Like, which one is real? Which one is coming and knocking on
Oh,
your
which
door?
one is real?
Yes.
I thought you were talking about the movies. I was like, well,
no.
Sigourney Weaver is like amazing, so I'm probably going
Sorry.
aliens.
No, not the movie. Yeah.
Aliens already exist for sure. There's
Okay.
like tons of information on that.
Yeah.
If you don't know, you haven't been paying attention.
And do they invest in Bitcoin?
Probably.
They invented Bitcoin.
They probably did.
Yeah,
They probably
no
did.
kidding.
They probably invented whatever is coming next for
Oh,
sure.
that's so funny. All right, I'm not going to go down the road of trash talking anymore. Okay, how can everybody find you? Obviously, I'll put all this in show notes, but while people are listening, what's the easiest way to find you right now?
Yes. So wealthwithtess.com, www.wealthwithtess.com. I'm also on Instagram at wealthwithtess, and I've got tons of free resources like a free mini course if you're a founder and you want to understand how to start investing. You don't have a 401k. I have a course for that. I have a free mini course for how to learn more about your 401k. So make sure you go to wealthwithtess.com because there's a lot of really good free resources on there that can get you started super quick. And they're also in the link in my Instagram profile at wealthwithtess.
And you'll work with men too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
You're open to everything. Okay.
Totally. Yeah. My goal is to create a safe space for women because I do think that so much of the financial industry is finance bros and they're trying to get away from that. But I've had some great men join my programs. Anyone, as long as you're kind, you're always welcome, regardless of how you identify.
As long as the men have a testosterone level lower than 300. You got to show me your sheet.
That's hilarious.
I'm such a bad man today. Anyways, but no, you're amazing. Your content's amazing. Please, people, like check out her stuff and go on her website. And even if you're a sole proprietor and you want to do something for yourself to get going, I just think the value is 100% there. And I'm grateful for the introduction, that we had gotten. And you just happen to be in town now.
I know that was so cool. Yeah, like 2 weeks ago, we were introduced by a mutual friend, and then I happened to be coming.
It's perfect.
It was probably like months ago, but feels like
it was months ago. Yeah, but that's fine.
Cool.
Time just flies, especially as you get old.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Please subscribe. Please share this. All the things that we talk about. We have our mastermind, our Built Different mastermind. That's going on. That'll be in the show notes. Follow Tess, and let us know what you think about the episode. Comment below and all the 9 yards. So appreciate everything. Until next time. Peace out.